The approaching storm, the Valkyrie Armada, arrives. Admiral Dexner stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Fist, watching as thousands of warships materialized from hyperspace. The sight never failed to fill him with pride. 5,000 vessels of the Valkyrie Empire, each one a masterpiece of alien engineering, now formed the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. Their sleek, crystalline hulls caught the light of distant stars, creating a magnificent display of imperial power. The target was a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. Earth, the humans called it. These primitive creatures had somehow managed to expand beyond their homeworld in recent decades, establishing small colonies and trade routes. The Galactic Council had initially welcomed them as a minor species, but the humans had made a critical error. They had refused to pay the tribute demanded by the Valkyrie Empire. Vexner's four arms gestured gracefully as he reviewed the tactical displays. His species had conquered 17 star systems in the past century. The humans would be number 18. According to intelligence reports, Earth possessed no significant military fleet, no advanced weaponry, and no defensive installations capable of threatening even a single Valkyrie destroyer. Admiral called out Commander Crix from the sensor station, his voice carrying the musical quality typical of their species. "We have completed formation. All ships report ready for planetary bombardment. Estimated time to complete subjugation, 6 standard hours." Dexner nodded with satisfaction. The plan was simple and brutal. They would destroy Earth's orbital facilities first, then systematically eliminate all military installations on the surface. Any resistance would be crushed without mercy. The surviving humans would serve as laborers in the Empire's mining colonies. "Begin long-range scans of the system," Dexner ordered. "I want to know the location of every human vessel before we commence the attack." The sensor array hummed to life, sweeping across the solar system with advanced detection technology. Minutes passed as the operators analyzed the incoming data. Vexner expected to see a handful of primitive spacecraft, perhaps some cargo haulers and patrol boats fleeing in panic. Instead, Commander Crix looked up with confusion written across his translucent features. "Admiral, this is unusual. I'm detecting only one significant artificial signature in the entire system, one ship." Vexner's voice carried a note of amusement. "They send a single vessel to face the might of the Valkyrie Empire. Show me." The main view screen flickered to life, displaying the human vessel at maximum magnification. It was unlike anything in the Valkyrie database. The ship appeared to be roughly frigate-sized, perhaps 300 meters in length. Its hull was a deep, matte black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No visible weapons arrays, no prominent engine exhausts, no communication antennae. It looked more like a geometric shadow than a spacecraft. The bridge crew exchanged glances, uncertain whether to laugh or be concerned by this unexpected development. Dexner chose laughter. "Is this some kind of joke?" he asked, his forearms spreading wide in a gesture of mock confusion. "Do these humans think a single ship can stand against 5,000? Perhaps they're offering it as a gift to appease us." The human warning before anyone could respond. The communications officer announced an incoming transmission. "Admiral, we're receiving a broad-spectrum signal from the human vessel." "Audio only, sir." "Put it through," Dexner commanded, eager to hear what pathetic plea for mercy the humans might offer. A calm, clear voice filled the bridge. The speaker was obviously human, female, with an accent that suggested education and authority. "Valkyrie fleet, This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth defense ship Silent Guardian. You have entered human space without authorization and with obvious hostile intent. You have exactly 60 seconds to reverse course and leave this system. This is your only warning. The bridge erupted in laughter. Even Vexner found himself chuckling at the absurdity of the situation. A single human aboard a ship no larger than one of their escort vessels, demanding that the most powerful fleet in the galaxy retreat. Captain Rodriguez, Vexner replied, making sure his voice carried the proper tone of condescending amusement. I am Admiral Vexner of the Valkyrie Imperial Fleet. You are facing 5,000 warships, each one capable of reducing your planet to ash. I suggest you abandon your vessel immediately and prepare for Imperial justice. There was a brief pause before the human captain responded. Admiral, I'm going to assume you didn't hear me clearly. You have 57 seconds to begin your withdrawal. After that, I will consider you hostile and act accordingly. Act accordingly. Vexner's laughter grew louder. Commander, scan that pathetic vessel. I want to know what weapons they think will threaten us. Crix activated the deep scan protocols, focusing every sensor array on the lone human ship. The results that appeared on his screen made him blink in confusion. Admiral, I'm getting some very strange readings. The power output from that vessel, it can't be correct. What do you mean? Dexner moved to look over his subordinate's shoulder. Sir, according to these scans, that ship is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. The readings suggest a power core equivalent to a stellar mass, but that's impossible for a vessel that size. No known technology could captain. Rodriguez's voice interrupted the conversation. Time's up, Admiral. The Guardian reveals itself. What happened next would haunt the survivors for the rest of their lives. The Silent Guardian began to change. What had appeared to be a simple, unremarkable hull started shifting and reconfiguring. Panels slid aside to reveal structures that hurt to look at directly, geometric shapes that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the three-dimensional space around them. The matte black surface rippled like liquid, revealing itself to be composed of some exotic material that didn't just absorb light, but seemed to absorb the very concept of existence itself. The space around the ship began to distort, creating visual effects that made veteran spacers feel nauseous and disoriented. What in the name of the void is that? Dexner breathed, his earlier confidence evaporating like moisture in a desert. Wind. Commander Crix's hands trembled as he worked frantically at his console. Sir, the energy readings are going off the scale. They're doing something to space-time itself. I'm detecting gravitational anomalies, quantum field fluctuations, and dimensional distortions that shouldn't be possible with any known technology. The Silent Guardian completed its transformation. What had once appeared to be a simple frigate now resembled something from a nightmare. Its hull had become a writhing mass of impossible geometry, with sections that seemed to phase in and out of reality. Weapon ports opened along its length, but they weren't conventional energy weapons or missile tubes. They looked like tears in space itself, wounds in the fabric of the universe that bled exotic energy. All ships, Dexner commanded, his voice cracking with sudden fear. Battle stations, raise shields and prepare to engage. Target that abomination and destroy it. 5,000 Valkyrie warships responded instantly. Shields flickered to life around the massive fleet, creating overlapping fields of protection that could withstand anything in their arsenal. Weapon systems powered up, from the smallest point defense lasers to the massive planet-cracking missiles that served as their ultimate weapons. Fire, Vexner ordered. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of energy beams lanced across space, their combined power enough to shatter moons. Missile swarms darkened the void, each warhead capable of destroying a city. Plasma torpedoes streaked toward their target, leaving trails of superheated gas in their wake. Everything struck the silent Guardian simultaneously, and absolutely nothing happened. The weapons didn't impact shields or armor. They simply ceased to exist as they approached the human vessel. Energy beams curved away into impossible angles, vanishing into dimensional rifts that opened and closed in microseconds. Missiles aged to dust in accelerated time fields before their proximity sensors could even detect their target. Plasma dissipated into component atoms that were immediately absorbed by the ship's exotic hull. The counterattack begins. Captain Rodriguez's voice remained perfectly calm as she addressed the fleet. I tried to warn you, Admiral. Humanity has spent the last 50 years asking ourselves a simple question. What would happen if we stopped limiting ourselves to conventional physics? The silent Guardian pulsed once, and reality screamed. A wave of distorted space-time erupted from the human vessel, washing over the Valkyrie formation like a tsunami of twisted physics. Where it passed, ships didn't just die, they ceased to have ever existed. Quantum fields collapsed, atomic bonds dissolved, and matter itself forgot how to maintain coherence. The first wave consumed 300 ships in the vanguard. They didn't explode or break apart. One moment they were there, proud vessels of the Valkyrie Navy, and the next moment there was only empty space where they had been. Not even debris remained. Evasive maneuvers. Vexner screamed. But how do you evade an attack that targets the fundamental forces of reality? The silent Guardian began to move, gliding through the Valkyrie formation with impossible grace. Its exotic weapon systems discharged again and again, each shot creating new types of destruction. Some ships were compressed into singularities, their mass condensed to a point before evaporating in bursts of hawking radiation. Others were stretched across light years in an instant, their atoms scattered across interstellar space. Still others simply stopped existing, erased from the universe as if they had never been built. Return fire, Vexner commanded desperately. All ships, continuous bombardment. Overwhelm whatever defenses it has. But there were no defenses to overwhelm. The human ship existed partially outside normal space-time, phasing between dimensions to avoid attacks while remaining capable of striking back. When weapons did manage to target its actual position, they encountered materials and energy fields that operated according to laws of physics the Valkyrie had never imagined. Commander Crix looked up from his sensor station, his face pale with terror. Admiral, we've lost 2,000 ships in 4 minutes. Our weapons are completely ineffective. That vessel is not just using advanced technology. They've weaponized reality itself. The reckoning humanity's true power revealed the silent Guardian continued its methodical destruction of the Valkyrie fleet, moving through their formation like death incarnate. Each weapon discharge created a new form of annihilation. Admiral Vexner watched in horror as his supposedly invincible armada dissolved around him, reduced to quantum foam and scattered atoms by forces beyond his comprehension. Captain Rodriguez. He transmitted desperately, abandoning all pretense of authority. Please, I surrender. The fleet surrenders. We'll withdraw immediately. The human captain's response was immediate and chilling. Admiral, you came here to commit genocide against my species. You brought 5,000 ships to murder billions of innocent people. Did you think there would be no consequences? Another pulse from the Guardian's exotic weapons erased an entire squadron of heavy cruisers. The ships simply folded in on themselves. Their matter compressed beyond the Chandrasekhar limit before vanishing into dimensional rifts that sealed themselves instantly. Dexter felt his command authority crumbling as panic spread through his remaining ships. All vessels, full retreat, jumped to hyperspace immediately, but the Guardian had anticipated this. As Valkyrie ships tried to activate their faster-than-light drives, they discovered that the space around them had been locked. The human vessel was generating fields that prevented the formation of hyperspace corridors, trapping the entire fleet in normal space where they could be systematically eliminated. Commander Crix's voice shook with terror as he reported their situation. Admiral, hyperspace is completely blocked. They've created some kind of dimensional anchor that extends throughout the entire system. We can't escape. How is this possible? Dexter demanded, watching another wave of his ships disappear into nothingness. No species in the galaxy possesses this level of technology. The humans were supposed to be primitives. Captain Rodriguez answered him, her voice carrying a note of grim satisfaction. That's where you made your mistake, Admiral. You assumed that because we hadn't revealed our capabilities, we didn't possess them. Humanity learned long ago that the best defense is to be underestimated by your enemies. The science of destruction as the Guardian continued its assault. Rodriguez began to explain the technology that was systematically dismantling the Valkyrie fleet. What you're experiencing, Admiral, is the practical application of theoretical physics that your species never bothered to explore. While you were conquering primitive worlds with conventional weapons, we were asking different questions. Another group of Valkyrie ships attempted a coordinated attack, focusing their fire on a single point. The Guardian didn't even slow down. The incoming energy was absorbed by its hull and converted into exotic matter that fed its weapon systems. We wondered, Rodriguez continued, what would happen if we could manipulate the fundamental constants of physics in localized areas? What if we could create regions where the strong nuclear force was weaker, or where entropy flowed backward, or where causality itself became negotiable? The Guardian's hull rippled, and suddenly a dozen micro-black holes appeared throughout the Valkyrie formation, but these weren't natural singularities. They had been engineered with specific properties, consuming only hostile vessels, while leaving the vacuum of space untouched. Ships that came within their event horizons were spaghettified instantly. Their atoms stretched across impossible distances before being consumed. The power requirements, Commander Crix whispered, staring at his instruments in disbelief. You'd need the energy output of multiple stars to maintain these effects. Correct, Rodriguez acknowledged, which is why we developed zero-point energy. Extraction systems were drawing power directly from the quantum vacuum itself. Infinite energy, limited only by our ability to channel and direct it. Dexter felt his four hearts racing as he watched his fleet, the pride of the Valkyrie Empire, reduced to cosmic dust by a single human vessel. This is impossible. You're violating every known law of physics. No, Admiral, we're following laws of physics that your species never discovered. Reality is far stranger and more malleable than most civilizations realize. Humans just happen to be curious enough to keep asking questions after others stopped. The Valkyrie's last stand, with over 4,000 ships already destroyed and no hope of escape. The surviving Valkyrie commanders made a desperate decision. If they were going to die, they would at least try to damage the Guardian enough to prevent it from threatening other worlds. All remaining vessels, Dexner broadcast to his fleet, ramming speed. Target the human ship directly. If our weapons can't penetrate its defenses, perhaps kinetic impact will succeed. 300 surviving warships turned toward the Guardian. Their engines pushed beyond safe limits as they accelerated to maximum velocity. It was a futile gesture, but one born of warrior, pride, and desperate hope. The Guardian detected the incoming attack and responded with something new. Space around. The human vessel began to flow like liquid, creating currents and eddies in the fabric of reality itself. The charging Valkyrie ships found themselves caught in these space-time currents. Their trajectories bent and twisted until they were moving in directions that didn't exist in normal, three-dimensional space. Some ships emerged from the distortion, field traveling backward in time, arriving at their starting positions before they had begun their attack. Others found themselves scattered across parallel dimensions, visible as ghostly outlines, but unable to interact with the physical universe. A few simply ceased to exist, erased from all possible timelines simultaneously. You see, Admiral Rodriguez explained as she watched the futile attack collapse. Humanity didn't just develop new weapons. We developed new ways of thinking about existence itself. Your species views the universe as a fixed stage on which events occur. We learned to treat it as an infinitely malleable medium that responds to properly applied forces. The Guardian's form shifted again, revealing weapon systems that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. These opened fire on the remaining Valkyrie vessels, but instead of destroying them, the weapons did something far more disturbing. They began editing the ships out of history, removing all traces of their existence from the timeline itself. The final message within 23 minutes of the engagement's beginning: the Valkyrie Imperial fleet had been completely eliminated. 5,000 warships, the largest military force in galactic history, had been reduced to nothing more than quantum uncertainty and redistributed mass energy. Admiral Dexner found himself alone on the bridge of his flagship, the last surviving vessel in the formation. His crew had vanished, along with their ship's escort squadron, edited out of existence by weapons that operated beyond the boundaries of conventional physics. Admiral, Captain Rodriguez's voice filled the silent bridge. You're the sole survivor of this engagement. I'm allowing you to live for a specific purpose. Dexner's forearms shook as he gripped his command chair. What purpose? You're going to return to the Valkyrie Empire and deliver a message. Humanity is no longer the primitive species that your intelligence reports described. We have evolved beyond your ability to threaten us, but we remain willing to coexist peacefully with civilizations that respect our sovereignty. The Guardian moved closer to the crippled flagship, its impossible geometry filling the view screen. Even looking at it directly caused physical pain, as if Dexner's brain was rejecting visual input that violated too many fundamental assumptions about reality. However, Rodriguez continued, any species that attempts to attack Earth or human colonies will discover that we have prepared defenses that make the Guardian look primitive by comparison. This demonstration was conducted with outdated technology, Admiral. Our current capabilities are significantly more advanced. A hyperspace corridor opened near the Valkyrie flagship, its formation unimpeded now that the Guardian had released its dimensional locks. You may leave now, Admiral. I trust you'll deliver our message accurately. Dexner didn't hesitate. His ship limped into hyperspace, carrying the sole survivor of the greatest military disaster in galactic history back to his masters. The silent patrol, alone in the void where 5,000 warships had existed moments before. the silent guardian began to reconfigure itself. The exotic weapons folded back into dimensions beyond normal perception, and the whole returned to its deceptively simple, matte black appearance. Within minutes, it looked once again like an unremarkable human frigate. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on her bridge, watching the sensor displays that showed empty space where the Valkyrie fleet had gathered. Her crew of 12 worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the ship's exotic systems and preparing for the long patrol back to Earth's outer defense perimeter. Arya, she addressed the ship's artificial intelligence, compile a full report of the engagement for Fleet Command, include all sensor data and tactical analysis. Report compiled, Captain, the AI responded in its crisp, synthesized voice. Shall I include a recommendation regarding future encounters with Valkyrie forces? Rodriguez considered the question. The Guardian was one of 7 vessels in humanity's deep space defense network, each one capable of eliminating threats that conventional military theory considered impossible. They represented the culmination of 50 years of secret research into exotic physics and dimensional engineering. Note that the Valkyrie response was typical of species that view warfare as a purely material competition, she said finally. They failed to consider the possibility that we might approach conflict from directions they couldn't perceive or defend against. Other species are likely to make similar mistakes. The Guardian turned away from the debris field, though calling. Its debris was inaccurate, since most of the destroyed ships had been converted into energy states that didn't leave physical remains. It began moving toward the outer system, resuming its patrol pattern as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. Earth remained safe, its blue oceans and green continents unaware of how close they had come to bombardment. The colonies scattered across human space continued their quiet expansion. Protected by guardians they would never see and weapons they couldn't imagine. And in the depths of space, the silent guardian waited patiently for the next threat to humanity, ready to demonstrate once again that evolution wasn't just about biology. Sometimes it was about transcending the very rules that governed reality itself. The galaxy would remember this day as the moment when humanity announced its true place among the stars, not as victims or conquerors, but as gardeners of physics, itself cultivating new forms of existence in the infinite garden of space and time. Asterisk.